Welcome to Broadband Action, the Community Broadband Action Network podcast. I'm Curtis Dean and joined by my usual co-host and co-founder of C-Band, John Willow. Hi, John.
Hello.
And today we're really happy to have a great guest with us. This is Don Michael, and Don is a digital literacy specialist for Central Piedmont Community College. And I'm excited that Don is going to be sharing a panel discussion that I'll be leading at Mountain Connect. And that's how we got hooked up and got to know each other a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about the alarming truth about adults and digital skills, especially young adults, and how we have a challenge in this country. And it's something that maybe we all aren't as aware of as we need to be. People in this digital literacy space probably are, but people outside of that digital literacy space maybe are not as aware of that topic. So just kind of start the discussion. Don, I've heard this term digital native, and I'm wondering, what does that mean? And is it really a thing?
Well, first I want to say thanks for having me on the show. Boy, that digital native terminology, it has a lot of isms to it. It started actually when an author named Mark Pensky wrote an article on digital natives, but also he described digital immigrants. You can read the paper for yourself, but a digital native is supposed to be a person, typically a young person, according to Pensky, that has the ability to know technology better than the digital immigrant who is older, and that they have less need for training because of their super skills in technology, something innate in their DNA. And it was hard for me to say, but I said it. He started
based on their age, based on age.
Yeah.
We've evolved.
It was almost in terms of evolution, thinking that every evolution somehow through genes and DNA, although he did not say that per se, but he inferred it, that because of this, that students would naturally know more about technology. So this is how it all started. And there were some dire consequences because of that we are now suffering and causing this digital literacy issue that we're trying to solve.
Labels have consequences.
Labels do have consequences.
They have financial consequences too.
Well, far-reaching economic and social consequences. I mean, there's hardly a limit to it. Is it interesting, not having read the article, is it interesting or important to say to define or talk just a second about the perceived difference between a digital native and a digital immigrant? Or is that not really for this conversation?
Well, no, it is, because it's an ism.
Okay.
If you say that this student over to the left is a digital native and the student to the right is, a digital immigrant, you really don't know, because it's based on ability.
Right.
Ability. And yours truly, a little older. I still have the ability to learn technology. Maybe the person next to me, younger, might not have that ability. So Pensky's theories are wrong. I've got something to prove that even better. So what we did is we took surveys here. We just finished with the second one in a row. So I'll just give you some quick statistics. So we asked for demographic data on the folks who visited our digital literacy learning space, the DLLS. We'll talk probably more about that, I think. And we wanted to find out who was coming, the demographics. We found that 27% of the students coming to see us had a grade point average of 3.0 to 3.9. I want you to pay attention to that. Why is an A student coming to me for digital literacy technology? We tested that again, and the numbers are still not quite as high as 27%, but it's up there. I think it was 22% this year. So
So,
that dispels the whole myth about, digital natives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was interesting with the immigrant piece, and we'll move on from it. If someone's identified as a digital native, people, according to Mark Pensky, then they don't need help. But if someone's identified as a digital immigrant, and they're only being dumped into that bucket because of the demographic profile, that immigrant person, then that would be someone you would identify for assistance and support, right?
Right.
So someone identified as a digital native, the assumption is they need nothing, and that's how we find ourselves here.
Right. And here's the question: as a teacher, why do you need these wrappings?
Mm.
What's the point of the wrappings? When that person comes up to you, you're like, it's like, was it tabula rasa? I don't know what you need from me, but tell me what you need. I'm going to give you just that, right? I'm not going to make any assumptions. In fact, I'm going to do what they call in the library, which is where I'm housed out of. They call it a library reference interview, meaning that I don't know what you want, but I'm going to ask you a certain amount of questions. I'm going to get to the bottom of what it is that you really want. And we're talking about the isms. The isms are there for a reason. Computers have been around since the 70s, right? And then we didn't really go full throttle to around the 80s when the microchips changed and they got faster. And there was a greater need to teach people how to use them, right? Because there were more software. What happened along the way, and I don't think it's just here at CPCC, but I think in almost all academic institutions, they got this idea of this Penskyism that we don't need a budget, a training budget for students. And for instance, I can say that here we have a service area for HR, for talent development. You need that, right? We also have a place called the Center for Teaching and Learning. That's for the faculty, right? They only take care of the faculty. But in a meeting, many years ago, about 3-4 years ago, I asked the question, raise your hand if you actually are responsible for student training, technology training. Nobody raised their hand, except the library, right? It's always been the library.
It's always the library, yeah.
And that's when you start looking at how the Penskyism really started to get institutions to save money. And that's also the cause for the low, I think, it's the low attention to digital literacy skills over the years. Most of these people would probably have been better trained if there was probably a budget for that training. And the librarians would have probably gotten that budget because they're the ones that said, we don't turn anybody away. That's their way. If I don't know, I'll help you find the answer, right? And so then you get into this. This is recently, I thought, this hiding work within work. What you do is there's this need that technology, the bean counters aren't going to pay for the training, right? And so they just wait until students say, well, where do we go? And they go to the library. And the librarian said, okay, I'll help you. And then what they've just done is they've just added more work to what they do. And that's what's been going on. This might be third rail. I don't know. But it's like, I'm not sure if people did it on purpose, but all I'm saying, it's going on.
Right.
And the best essential question is, and it's not a rocket science question, is, do you have a student technology training budget, period? So if you got new technology that's coming on your campus, like maybe Microsoft 365, do you have a budget to train them? If it's a no, then think about that. Then how are you going to train students? It's that Penskyism that comes back up again. Well, you don't have to, because
they're digital natives.
They're born with a computer in their hand. It's like, that's ridiculous. And even from a teaching point of view, if you're a teaching institution, that's not the right teacher one-on-one questions. You need to say, do we need a budget? And then how much of that budget do we need? Especially if you've got 800 teachers, 400 staff, and 45,000 students. I mean, why does not the 45,000 need a budget? I mean, how is that not getting a budget? It's like, these are not rocket science questions, right? They might be third rail questions, but it's like, so who's responsible for that?
Well, let's talk about that too, because we also, I want to say, put it out there, add in here as a dimension, that when the United States started systematically defunding schools 25, 30 years ago, a lot of programming went away. And what we talk about is oh, recess is gone, arts programming is gone, but also shop is gone.
Vocational. I'm a
You know, and
former
that's, but like
vocational teacher.
when I was in high
No,
school,
right.
I had to take business and personal finance, and I had to take a typing class on a computer keyboard.
Yep.
Right. And that was in the 80s. In the
Yep.
80s, in a high school where I only had 90 people in my graduating class, go Warriors. We still had to take a computer keyboarding class in 1981, and now kids don't have to.
Yeah, and
so by the time they get to college, they've been pumped their whole young lives. Hey, you don't need help. You got this. They get into college. No, they don't got this. Right.
Oh, and
so
not only
they've gone through all of their middle and high school years now with a Chromebook in their hands, with everything opened up for them. You know, they don't, like, it starts way before college.
Yeah.
And then the colleges inherit that problem. And if they don't fix it, they go right to the workforce. That's where I was. Yeah.
And they can fix it through a pre-assessment, the last semester of a high school student.
Right.
I was a high school teacher. I'm telling you right now, those students are looking for something to do. Most of them are trying to get internships. It's only a 30-minute North Star basic skills test, right? It creates a transcript that can come to the higher education institution. Or if you are a really willing higher education institution, test them when they're with you in the summer. Or if you just, how about this? It just happens. They're in the classroom. You just discovered it, right? As soon as you know that, test them, have them come over to the library and have them take the North Star test. So you at least have some sort of calibration as to where they are. See, that's what a teacher is supposed to do. You're supposed to find out where they are, not try to teach them something they already know.
Right. Individualize it.
The only way you're going to know that is through an assessment. Now,
so after someone, for example, if after someone's been accepted into the school, but before they start, what would be the harm of requiring that you send them a link? They take the assessment. We used to take placement tests around college all the time, right? To know if we needed to take the English credits, the math credits. So it's not like that's a crazy precedent.
Yeah, the only thing is that this may be a Midwest, not Midwest thing, because I'm from the Midwest. I'm used to being tested, so it's no big deal.
Right.
But I do understand why schools are hesitant. Their theory is that we have so much for them to do that we will, wear them out. I would say I don't disagree.
They can't do it if they can't type.
I don't disagree with that, but I will say that you can still get around that by pre-testing through high school or because the people that you just discover in a classroom, those numbers are going to be smaller, right? You can handle that, and with the help of the library, like systems like the digital literacy learning space we have, we can take care of that. But it's the ones that are coming in, you'll know already, right? And you'll be able to do that. One of the things I wanted to share with you was a conversation, and this was a conversation with a CIO who was looking at our project and our service. And we had a statistic where we asked the faculty. We also we surveyed the faculty regarding their thoughts on students' digital literacy, which was a very interesting survey. And one of the questions says, do you believe there should be a centralized place where students can go for technology training? Right? Simple question, right? So maybe this was the students. I'm sorry, the students said that. So 83% of the students said, no, I don't need that. And by the way, if you've ever taught students, they really think that they're hot stuff, just so you know.
A learning lab sounds like more work, right?
But let's just go with the numbers, right? It's true. It said 83%. He says it's 83%. This is the CIO, digital IT. So it looks like they don't need it. I said to the CIO, you're right. 83 is a high number. I said, but we're not a corporation. That 83%, we don't probably need to see them. That's great. The library we'll leave the door open if they want, but we don't need to see them. We're happy about that. What about the 17%? I says, we're education is always 100%. Always.
Right.
You can't just say the 17% is going somewhere else. And that's what's been happening over the years, is this concept of the higher number is where we should put our funding, maybe. I mean, again, remember, I'm not the guy handing out the money, and I'm not the one deciding that stuff. I don't know why this wasn't picked up a long time ago, but I do know that if it hasn't been there, it has to have had some negative influence on that 17% that wasn't given service, wasn't even asked if they needed service, right? I think that as our service goes along, we're going to get more of these numbers. The numbers aren't going to change. We're always going to have that set 17%, right? Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting way to advocate for institutionalization of this priority, right? When you get to an academic center and you say, well, 17% is almost 1 in 5, so that's a lot. So they put it so like, does that, if you can, that just seems like something just a little more defined, tactile, tangible to work on. So you put in a small resource lab with like whatever, 5 computers, whatever you're. But then use will dictate, right? Use will reflect. Use of that lab will reflect the need. I feel like what I'm hearing you say is the need is just to get them started, get those resource labs into schools, even if they're not, like rolled out with ribbon cutting. Just get something going so you can gain traction on that. Yeah.
Right. And the way students learn now, everything is real time. Look, if you want me to teach you how to do a pivot table, then we should have a resource to teach you how to do just that. I am not going to set up a whole Excel course for you to learn how to do a pivot table week 5 when you're already dead. Your mind should be dead by that time. It's like students want real service, real time, and that's what this center offers. It's like whatever it is you need, make an appointment, and we will help you with just that. And how about this? Again, that library code. If we can't help you, I will send you to a professor on campus that will meet with you and make sure that they meet with you and give you what you need.
So to bring it down to a very basic level, let's say I'm a 18-year-old person and I'm getting out of high school today, and I'm enrolling in any institution of higher learning, whether it be a vocational program or looking for some sort of professional degree or whatever. What are the challenges that I face if I indeed are what we called before a digital native, whatever the heck that means? But what are the disadvantages and the challenges that I face going into school that first year? Am I likely to get lower grades because I'm so busy trying to figure out the technology that, what are some of the challenges you see those students facing in year 1?
I've just branched off the answer to that question. So let me first talk about the digital native, and then I want to talk about navigators too.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, if you're a digital native, we don't know what kind of digital native you are.
Right.
I mean, are you good at games? Are you good at texting? Can you search? Do you understand what a search text coding? Do you know how to use that? Right. We don't know that. The belief is that when you have that title, once you have that stamped on your chest, that mark, that it has reached the bar that the technology bar, competency bar that the institution has. The institution hasn't even set a bar, right? They should, and they should test to make sure that people meet that bar, right? And the digital natives are folks that they want to impress people. They want to. No one wants to be told that once they get to college that you don't know jack about about searching, or you don't know how to.
Especially
PDF is.
Especially when the adults in their lives for the past several years have been looking at them and saying, Johnny or Jane can fix your problems because she's a teenager and teenagers know everything. So just call a teenager.
Yeah.
So they've got that already have that inflated ego a little bit about their ability to figure anything out.
Well, having a college culture, a technology culture that has definitive marks for everybody, president, vice president, staff, faculty, and students. What you do is you set yourself up so that Everybody knows how to use the technology that you are asking people to use in a course, but you haven't put that in the catalog. So people just show up and then boom, hey, you're using Brightspace. Hey, you're using Microsoft Office. And I know you know how to use that. That's just ridiculous, right?
Don, I'm gonna share a personal story.
Okay.
About a while back, about 6 months or a year ago, I needed some help in my private practice, and I know that my youngest son, who's a college student, he's in his 20s, is a very good writer, and I needed content, and so I just brought him on to create content for me. But as part of creating that content, we needed to work together in Google Drive. We needed to work together in a structured email client. We needed to be able to collaborate. And my son is incredibly intelligent, like scary intelligent, but he fell all the way down, even though he went through all the way through school with a Chromebook and Google Drive and his learning platform and all of that. Like, he didn't know how to send me an email proof. He didn't know how to click share the link, and then type my email address in, or just copy and paste it from the browser bar and send it to me from his Gmail account.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go into it too much. And he came up to speed. But what really startled me was I had no idea that would be a gap.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a sign of lack of formal training. I mean, you got you got soldiers, they enter and they got boot camp. They're all trained the same. They have the same duty.
That's why they're such attractive people to hire when they come out of the military.
Oh my God, yes.
The employer knows that they've learned these things because they were forced to.
Yeah, to learn what you need to know to do your job, right?
Yep.
You know, the catalogs are limited. You can only say so much, but there has to be some kind of coding in the college catalogs that says, you know, Brightspace, you know, knowledge of Brightspace, you know, or blah, blah. That means that before you get into this classroom, you're forewarned. You're forewarned that you need to get training. And we offer Brightspace training prior to classes. So it's there, right? And you know what we're really talking about here? We're really talking about systems. You know,
yeah, we're talking about systems, but we're also talking about how to get an 18-year-old to agree to do more work. You know, it's like, I love that these systems are here. I love that, and that support is so important. But I'm almost feeling like there's a piece where, like, all children need to pass through some sort of funnel.
Yes.
Just like all young people. I'm sorry, children. I'm old. But like all students exiting high school and or entering post-secondary education, they need to pass through some sort of
assessment. Say the word. It's
assessment
not negative.
For the good of the professors.
Right.
What about a really bright student who is failing in class simply because they don't understand Brightspace, right?
Use the technology. Oh my goodness, think about this. If it was you, visualize that you're in this English course and you love the Baudelaire, you love all the poets, Nikki Giovanni, you've read them, you're ready to get into this classroom. Then the teacher says, I need you to create Microsoft Word and then convert it to PDF, as well as this will be in your Brightspace course.
Yeah.
And you are 18 or 60. It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
You're going to be doing double time. You're going to be hopefully, enjoying your course, but you're now going to be learning Brightspace. You're going to be learning or Canvas or whatever it is. And what the heck is a PDF? Let me tell you right now for our viewers, it's portable document file. The Adobe company created this because back in the day, yes, I and my dinosaur was there. Back in the day when they created softwares, the only way to read a file from that software was with that software.
Yeah.
So you can imagine all these different file types. So Adobe says, no, agree to us to have a file that every single one of you can read. And that's how the PDF came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we've talked quite a bit here about hard skills, and I'm talking about, adapting to specific technology or softwares or et cetera. But there also is a challenge for those young adults with what I would call the soft skills of being successful consumer of technology. For example, how to write a professional email, or an email that expresses professional thoughts without emojis, or how to be an intelligent consumer of online information, so that you're not being sucked into the rabbit hole of bad information, false information, and leading, learning the wrong things. So is that a challenge you can tackle in a system like you have, Don?
Sure. What's great about being the service, there's no building, there's no office. The service is located at all 6 of our campuses, where we can help students with not just digital literacy, but information literacy or citations. I mean, it's a perfect space to be in a one-stop shop for learning, like digital literacy learning and all those others. But it's got to be available,
Right.
and it has to be promoted by the provosts and the VPs and the president. It has to be something that is a priority. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere.
Question: just what do you think about the viability of something like this? So we're all Iowans here in this triptych of a panel. I went to the University
That doesn't
of
mean
Iowa.
you should tune out right now. Just
Right.
Dead
This is
cold
just
fact.
a setup. This is just the setup.
Okay.
When I was entering the University of Iowa, I had to take a series of placement tests. So I knew at what level I had to start my English. I had to start. Why do we not have a freshman course in every college, learning the learning platform, learning basic keyboarding, and you can test out of it, right? Like I was able to test out of all my math for college, right? I didn't have to take any of it once I got there, but because I was able to demonstrate proficiency. So do you think, I mean, you're in the education system, and as a community college, so, academic, you are right there on the front lines where people are trying to balance work and life every day.
Yeah,
Do you think it's realistic to
I think
create
it's realistic.
some sort of digital literacy 101 course that every student in America has to either pass or test out of?
I would agree with that. I know that we've had a course that it looks like it was a digital literacy course, but it really was a Microsoft Office course. There's a difference between learning something and then learning how to learn technology. There's a big difference between those two ways of going about it. I think there should be a multi-pronged solution because our students and their brains are so different. I think for the super fast learners, there should be like a North Star, something like that test, so they can get it out of the way and get on with doing the crazy super intelligent things that they always do. Then there should be also some sort of mini course offering, because we've got some students that kind of know, but they need to know what they know, and they need us to help them assess what they know. Again, it's not like I'm getting any money from North Star, but they have assessments that actually can just get right to it, right? They get right to it, though. So
in other words, every student takes a little assessment, and then based on the results of that assessment, they take a semester class, they take a little test from North Star, or they take a mini course to just like have the skills they almost have.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Think about it. It's so quick. They have a transcript. And so it's not like they're alone. If they want to be alone, they can, but they can also involve an instructor that can say, look, let's go over all the ones you missed and ones you didn't miss, because maybe you can teach yourself or maybe you can't. Again, you see what I mean? It's like in an education institution, you should have options to be that student that you already are, and we'll help you be a better student to reach, again, that culture, that campus technology bar. And once you reach that bar, then everybody's walking around knowing the same thing in terms of the same technology. I know it sounds like a panacea, but it's really more like organization. It's just organization that you would in citizenship. Like
I feel like it's academic support, like any other kind of academic support. We have health support, we have housing support, we have career counseling, we
yeah,
have
yeah,
we have grief counseling,
yeah.
we have all kinds of academic support programs available. Why is there not technology support as a pillar of academic support?
Well, I'm going to add to that too. We're now starting to understand trauma,
Yeah,
and I'm just going to say it. That literacy part there, it's no different than someone who cannot read. It's the
Yeah.
same fear. I've seen it.
exactly.
I've seen it. And your approach as a teacher, as a librarian, you have to approach it from a trauma informed position, because someone has put that person down, or they already feel like they're put down. But they will be better learners if you go in thinking that this is a digital literacy, you know, focus for this
Right.
training session, because that's the job, is to get that student from here to the one that has the confidence to hear, right? That's the whole thing. It's to get everybody going so that they can find their own way. But when that you don't know the technology, then you're just going to end up struggling, maybe openly or privately. And those
Right.
are the ones that I'm more concerned with, the ones that suffer privately.
Right.
And this is a great transition back into what Curtis was saying about soft skills and what you were saying about navigators. When we talk about, we say digital literacy in these conversations, but when we're with clients as digital navigators, we often substitute that and say digital skilling or digital training, so that it looks like more of a process than you're illiterate now, but you will be literate later.
Yeah.
But that goes right into the soft skills of navigators, right? We these a net we're, we've learned a lot through CBAN's own digital navigator work, that that a huge percentage of it is talking people down out of the tree,
Yes.
making them feel like,
Yeah.
no, this is just a skills gap, like you were
Yeah.
never exposed to it, so why would you
Yes.
have
You're not
right
a dumb person because you don't know these things. You just
right
were never exposed to it.
Yeah. And to take it from a person who's got a neurodiverse brain, I know what that feels like. I
yeah
know what that worth or value concept in whether I should help you, if the help will really work, or if it
right
was sick, not knowing that you could actually end up growing up and being in college, and then now you're talking on a digital literacy conversation in a podcast, right?
right
It's amazing.
Well, I
All
think
these assumptions and labels, they can you imagine how many people are held back because someone feels so afraid of whatever's going on in their life that they have to label you and then put you in this category. Um, it's amazing how the human mind works sometimes.
right. And even leaving motive out of it, you've got, even if someone was never specifically traumatized about their skill or lack of skill, you grow up in one environment where that's not a component. It's just not. Like maybe at your house, people just aren't on computers. Maybe you go to a school system where everything's so locked down that you don't really have to use critical thinking skills to understand
Oh,
technology.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
all kinds of ways people can enter that trough, right? That tranche of deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and we're discovering that too. Like you can't assume there's not one profile of a person who doesn't have these skills.
Yeah.
But what they all have in common, or almost all of them, is embarrassment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they're adults.
And the thing that I suggest to teachers, and I was a teacher for about 20 years, the question you ask yourself as a teacher when you start your semester is, okay, what kind of human being do you want me to create? In other words, they're going to be with me for 16 weeks, right? I need to know at the end of that 16 weeks, what do you envision that I should create out of each one of them? If you don't have that vision for creating or getting that student to a certain skill level at the end of those 16 weeks, you might miss something. That's a lot of work, especially that first 2 weeks. If you're really doing your job as a teacher, that's a hustle that first 2 weeks, but it's worth it. Absolutely worth it.
Nice.
Well, hey, I hate to cut us off here. I'm pretty sure we could talk for much longer on this topic. It's a deep topic, and Don, hopefully you would agree to come back with us at some point,
Oh yeah,
and we
sure.
can continue our dialogue here. I do want to mention, if you've been listening to this on audio podcast, we will put the links that we've been discussing in the podcast description, and of course, if you're watching it on video on YouTube, we'll do the same. So that if you missed any of those links, you may have heard us talking about the resources that Don has at his school. We'll put those up and make those available to everybody. Don, Michael, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time today.
You're quite welcome, and I want to say shout out to the Roosevelt Rough Riders in Des Moines, Iowa.
I started high school there. Both my parents graduated from Roosevelt.
And Drake University. Thank you.
My mom she got her master's in social work from Drake. Yep.
Well, my high school doesn't even exist anymore. So.
Oh God!
Sorry,
she hadn't brought that up. 40th year reunion this year, and we don't even have a school to go to. So
sorry.
Anyway, enough on that topic.
Thank you for having me.
That's exactly why we're doing this work, though, Curtis.
It is absolutely
that's exactly why we're doing this work.
That's right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming on, Don. John, it's always a pleasure, and we appreciate all of you joining us here for Broadband Action. We'll see you next time.